Brand licensing has become a new trend in the business as multinational companies they invest in developing their brands and let the other companies hire their brands. This would make the multinational companies to increase their market operations as well as improve the market share. In building the brands, the companies largely invest in advertisement, communication, and social media through which you see they will generate awareness about the brand and make the companies and make the consumers think about this particular brand on the top of the mind. Once these brands become top of the mind brands, at one point of time, the companies would offer to let these brands be hired by other companies so that the multinational companies which have generated these brands will maintain the quality of the brands, but the operational issues will be taken care of by the companies which have hired this brand. This is called as brand licensing. In this brand licensing process, the cost of maintaining the brands becomes much lower for the companies, and the companies will make a good performance of the brands because these brands are going to be served as well as these brands are going to be monitored by the principal companies which have created the brands. At one point of time, the brand building process is considered to be a very difficult one because of lack of technology intervention. But as on date, there are many tools to bring the brands more popular to the market. At one point of time, it was considered that serving brands is more easier than building the brands. But in the global competition and in the recent trends, it has been observed that building brands is much easier for the companies because they can focus on customer requirement. They can become customer centric. At the same time, they can also think of which are the competing brands coming in the market, what are their attributes, and which are the best strategic and tactical ways to manage these issues in building the brand. So while building the brand, most companies they take into consideration the attributes of the product, the complementarity of the product, and they also consider the cost factor. So the entire brand licensing is dependent on four important factors, which is considered to be 4 A's, in which the first A stands for the attributes of the brand. Second one is the awareness about the brand, followed by affordability, whether companies whichever are hiring this particular brand will have the competence to pay for these brands, particularly in terms of their royalty, which has been determined periodically, and maintaining these brands in association with the principal brand builder, and the adaptability. A company may hire a brand, but it has also to see whether the brand can become adaptable. To become a brand adaptable, it is very important that consumers are well aware of the brand and consumers know what are the prescribed and perceived use values associated with the brand, which gives them the judgment for the value for money. This process of brand licensing is very fetching, and In most of the countries, brand licensing is considered to be one of the very important source for generating income for most of the multinational companies. In brand licensing, the companies use the strategy of which is called as a high active strategy. And in the high active strategy, the companies, they invest a lot of money in building the brand through the advertisements and making the brand more apparent in the public through the billboards, through the commercials, and by organizing various the brand performance events. This is considered to be a high active strategy, which leads further to the high price fixation of the brand. In the high active strategy, on one hand, the companies invest a lot on building the brand, and on the other, they expect that the brand should fetch a higher price. When the brand is fetching a higher price, obviously the brand is going to be located in a premium segment. Sometimes it also happens that if the companies feel that there has been a good demand growing in the mass market, so the company may pull down the brand from the mass to the from the class to the mass segment. Once the brand is pulled down to the mass segment, the market share obviously is going to be much higher as compared to the premium segment. So the brand licensing is one very popular strategy for most of the multinational companies, and now it is fetching over $200 billion in the global market. The licensing trends in the global market include many examples. These examples may be taken from the consumer goods manufacturing and marketing companies, as well as from the consumer durables marketing companies. So a couple of issues in the brand building. One of the major factors in brand building is that how strong a company can make its brand, which we call as a tensile brands. If the brand is more tensile and if it's not close to the agility, then obviously the brand will fetch a higher price in the market. Brand licensing also gives a good protection to most of the multinational companies against the piracy of the brands, because it goes through a proper documentation process, and they are abide with a legal contract. So the hiring companies will have to abide with all the contractual clauses of usage of the brand, so that the company which is originating that particular brand or a company which is licensing the brand will always have the right protection. Further, as I have explained before, that it will also add value to the company in terms of building its reputation as well as generating the revenue streams. It can also the company can also think of going for a larger market share and make the brand sustain for a longer time, and prevent the brand from any kind of infringements of patents and intellectual property rights. The brand licensing segments now are further increased from manufacturing to services. Also, there are many companies which also create their brand and sublet their brand to the another companies under the conditions of the prescribed quality and standards. And in marketing, the brand licensing clubbed with or combined with the operations and logistics may turn as the franchising proposal. So in franchising, a brand has to be hired and the marketing strategies have to be followed by the companies. So this is one of the recent trends in brand licensing, which is being used by the financial institutions, by the manufacturing and services institutions, and also by the process consultancy companies, which make the market research for a company, and after that they serve with the company to see that all their recommendations are being properly implemented. This task is also served by many international market consultants as the license of their brand to be managed by other companies locally. So this is one strongest proposition for most of the multinational companies to think global and act local.